Imagine it's well past midnight in the depths of the Cascade Mountains, and an abandoned motorcycle with no driver comes into our camp, its headlights illuminating the night like a stalking predator. It makes a slow, creepy circle of our campfire, then comes to a halt, leaving behind a crumpled note on the ground before it speeds off into the woods. Tony and I stand there, frozen with fear, as I read the threatening note on the paper. Stay off the ridge. That was the moment of change, but I'll tell you how we got there. It was all last Friday, June 6th, 2025, that I, Jake, invited my best buddy Tony on a weekend camping trip in the Cascades. I'm the laid-back guy who doesn't get spooked by weird atmospherics, and Tony is the kind of guy who would jump out of his seat at a creaking floor and assume that some ghost had manifested. We're loading sleeping bags, a cooler full of beers, and some pretty good food and camping gear into my old Jeep, eager to spend 2 days with nothing but mountains and starry nights. The sun is setting, casting long shadows over Seattle as we're about to leave.
Hey Jake, look at those clouds moving in.
Tony zips his sweatshirt up and glances at the sky as though it's going to storm. We're going to be camping in a goddamn swamp. Relax, man, I tell him, and toss a tarp into the trunk with a clang. We have ponchos, and if it rains, we'll just wait it out with the drinks. Don't worry, and let's go. We leave the city to some ancient rock music as the Jeep bounces over the winding mountain roads. The tall pines cast us in shadow, and we both are glad to be going. Tony is amid a gripe about his ex when I notice something in my side mirror. A beat-up old Yamaha motorbike, probably from the 80s, keeping pace with us behind at a constant speed. It's got goofy dog decals on it, and pugs wearing shades as a kid might apply as a joke. Look at this, I comment, lightly nudging Tony. Who puts pug stickers on a bike? That bike would be something you'd pick up at the secondhand shop. Tony swivels in his chair and squints. Hey, that's been behind us for 10 miles. It's a bit spooky, don't you think? Some local something coming our way, I say, trying to be calm, but I can't shake the feeling that it's watching us, drifting near enough that I can see it. I crank the music up, trying to drown out the nervous feeling rising in my stomach. Things take a turn a few miles down the road. We are about to pull over for a quick break when the bike shoots past us. No one on it. No helmet, no hands on the handlebars, just the Yamaha flying down the road, its engine roaring like a living creature. The pug stickers flash in the fading light, and then it's gone, carried away by a curve in the road. Whoa, Jake, Tony yells, almost tumbling out the window. There wasn't a soul on that thing. For crying out loud, tell me you saw that. I hold the steering wheel hard, my heart pounding. Yes, I did see it. How can a bicycle ride like that without a person on it? That is weird. Maybe it's one of those new driverless ones? Tony guesses, but his voice trembles, and we both know that's nonsense for a bike that old. Let's plan to meet up again somewhere, I say, my voice more level than I am. I need to think about this. A few blocks down the highway, we pass an old diner with a flashing neon sign in flickering red that reads, Marge's Place. The parking lot is deserted, and the paint on the building is chipped like it has been sitting there for decades. We drive up, and there's the Yamaha parked in front of a streetlight with those pug stickers shining. But when we exit to investigate, it's gone. No sound of the engine, no tire tracks, just an empty lot and the smell of exhaust. Hello, it was right there. Tony walks back and forth, his voice full of concern. Bikes don't disappear like that. I see what you mean, pal, I tell him, massaging my neck. Let's go get a coffee and figure this out. I'm concerned too. Inside, the diner is quiet, but only one waitress, Lila, her brow creased from years of work. We get into a cracked vinyl booth, have some black coffee, and Tony can't resist. Hello, Lila. Do you see a motorbike outside? It's an old Yamaha with pug stickers on it, he asks, leaning over the table. Lila's smile wavers, and she ceases to move her hands on the coffee pot. That bike was my brother Cal's. He and his son, Mikey, rode it everywhere. She produces an old photo from her apron. Cal's smiling by the Yamaha, stickers the same, everything the same. She hands us a worn sketchbook, pages filled with illustrations of pugs wearing sunglasses. Mikey adored those dogs, she says, her voice trembling. They were killed in an accident on this road in '09. They skidded on a patch of ice near the ridge. I glance at the photo, and I shiver. So, what we saw out there, you mean it's their bike? Like a ghost? Lila approaches and whispers. They tell people here that Cal and Mikey never left. That motorcycle shows up occasionally, as though they're still riding and watching out for travelers. But listen, if you notice it 3 times, it's a warning. Something bad is coming. Tony's eyes open wide and his coffee cup trembles in his hand. 3 times? Oh, Lila, that was our second. And then you have to be cautious, she states, her expression unreadable as she returns to the counter. We pay and leave. Lila's words echoing in my head like a bad tune. I'm again in the Jeep, checking my rearview mirrors constantly, half wishing that bike would appear. And would you believe it? As we approach a foggy part of the road, the Yamaha shows up again, closer this time, its engine growling like a beast. The pug stickers shine in my headlights, and for an instant, I think I see a shadow on the seat, a child's form, vanishing when I blink. Hey, look! Tony yells, holding the armrest tightly. That's 3, Jake. We're finished. Slow down, I yell, flooring it, but the bike remains glued to us, cutting through the fog. I take a turn into Black Pines campground, and it's gone, leaving only silence and my racing heart. We drive up to the campsite, a remote area of tall pines, and begin to set up our tent. The air's electric, and Tony reacts to every sound from the bushes. Think it's gone? He adds a log to the fire we're building. I hope so, I tell him, cracking open a beer to soothe my nerves. But that warning Lila gave us? I'm not risking it. We sit around the fire, attempting to shake off the frightened sensation, but it doesn't work. Each snap of a branch feels like danger, and Tony is discussing ghosts, and I'm avoiding looking at the trees. At midnight, we hear it, a low rumble that grows louder, like a storm approaching. My gut drops as the Yamaha appears in sight, headlight on, with no rider on it. It circles our fire, slowly and cautiously, the pug stickers teasing us. Then it just stops, and the engine dies. What is it for? Tony exhales softly, almost inaudibly. I stand with my trembling legs and approach. The bike is extremely cold, as if it were ice. There is crumpled paper on the seat. I pick it up, my trembling hands, and read aloud. Stay off the ridge. The ridge? Tony's voice cracks. That's the trail we were going to hike tomorrow, the one with the cliffs. We can't go there today, I tell him, stuffing the note in my pocket. This is trying to tell us something. We barely slept, the message of the note still fresh in my head. At dawn, the bike is gone, with no prints or indication that it was ever there. We pack up in silence, the campground too quiet, as if it is holding its breath. Tony is driving home, staring at his phone when he tenses up. Jake, listen to this. A hiker died on that ridge yesterday. They fell off a cliff right when we were camped. My palms are gripping the steering wheel tightly, and I break into a sweat. If we had climbed there, we'd be done, Tony concludes, staring out the window. We never mention it again, but sometimes when I'm driving alone late at night, I catch the faint sound of an engine just past my headlights. Was that motorcycle helping us along or alerting us to something nasty? I don't know, but I'm not taking the chance to find out. I'm Jess, a junior from outside of Bozeman, Montana. My life's fairly run-of-the-mill. School, part-time waitressing at the diner in my hometown, and way too much phone scrolling. But last fall, something happened that I just can't shake, no matter how hard I try. It started with a family hike, of all things. To celebrate my parents' 20th anniversary, Mom and Dad were all about making memories, so they took me and my little brother Luke to this trail outside the Gallatin National Forest. Dad had heard about it from a guy at work, an old logging trail that took you to an abandoned quartz mine from the 1930s. I wasn't really excited. Hiking isn't my thing, but I figured it would be better than another night of Luke playing the Xbox. The path was narrow to get to, winding between pine trees that towered above us and rocky hills that made my sneakers slip every other step. Luke was complaining about his legs hurting, and Mom was photographing every tree as if we were filming a nature documentary. Dad, however, was surprisingly enthusiastic, explaining to us how the mine was a piece of Bozeman's history that had been shut down after a collapse killed several workers. I had done a history school project one time on it. 6 men were buried when the main shaft collapsed on April 17, 1934. Their bodies never turned up, and the mine was shut up for good. It was kinda sad, but I didn't think about it. I was more annoyed at the bugs buzzing around my face. We pulled up at the mine entrance around noon. It was a rough opening in the side of the hill, half concealed by tall ferns and a rusty chain-link gate that looked like no one had budged it in years. A weathered sign creaked askew, screaming, "Keep out," in faded red letters. Beyond the gate, a pile of big rocks blocked the entrance, like the mountain had closed up. There was a little display on the side, some old picks and a dented helmet on a wooden stand, likely for tourists who never came. Mom and Luke were in front of the display, Mom reading the sign aloud while Luke threw pebbles at a tree. Dad was taking photos with the gate behind him, smiling like a kid. I wandered off, bored, kicking rocks to pass the time. My kick sent one of my rocks gliding along beside the gate into the mine opening. I have no idea why, but I followed it, ducking under the chain link like it was nothing. The air inside greeted me, cold and wet, smelling of damp earth and something bitter I couldn't place. My phone light only illuminated the darkness, just enough to see the rock pile 10 feet in front of me. I was going to get my rock and get out when I heard it, a low rumble, like the hum of a generator somewhere underground. My stomach knotted up. The air cooled and a weird breeze began tugging at my jacket, like the mine was sucking me in. I stood there, my heart thudding so hard I could hear it. The noise cleared, almost like whispers, too faint to hear. Then there were figures out of the dark. 6 figures stepping out from beyond the rocks. They wore worn flannel shirts and overalls, ripped. One man carried a broken lantern, its glass glowing softly, a green hue as if it were alive. Their faces were odd. Dirty, cracked lips, and their eyes. Oh, their eyes were just holes, as if someone had scooped them out. They stood and stared at me, and then, all of them lifted their hands and pointed. Their mouths opened, revealing teeth like broken charcoal, and a whisper drifted in the air. "You broke it." My legs were shaky. I tried to run, but the earth clung to me, preventing me from moving. The humming changed to a chant, their voices blending together. "You broke it, you broke it." The lantern man moved closer, his head cocked at a strange angle. The pile of rocks behind them shifted position, the rocks grinding against each other, and a large crack boomed as loud as a gun. Dust rained down, and I truly felt the earth tremble like the mine was coming to life. "Jess!" Mom yelled, and that snapped me out of it. I was lying on the ground outside, and she had my shoulders in her tight grip. Luke was standing behind her, eyes wide with fear. and Dad was running up the trail, yelling, "What's wrong with her?" I was gasping, and my face was wet. Tears or sweat, perhaps. Mom said I had been standing at the entrance to the mine, white as a ghost, repeating, "I didn't break it," over and over. She heard me from the trail and said I was choking. When she got to me, I was standing in the dark, eyes fixed on something she couldn't see. She grabbed me, and that snapped me out of it. I attempted to tell him about the miners, the lantern, and the voices, but it was strange, even to me. Dad thought I knocked my head when I stumbled over. He kept testing my pupils like a doctor. Luke just stood there saying nothing, which was stranger than anything. Mom didn't buy the head injury story. She kept glancing at the mine, her face tense, as if she felt something was wrong as well. We hurried back to the car, and no one said a word. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to catch a glimpse of that lantern shining through the trees. I did not sleep that night. As soon as I attempted to close my eyes, I could hear the chant, "You broke it." I searched the internet for mine, reading old articles. The 1934 collapse was not an accident. A foreman had disregarded warnings of defective supports and pushed the crew to complete the job more quickly. 6 men lost their lives, and their families held the company responsible for putting them in harm's way for profit. I stared at a blurry photograph of the crew, and I felt a chill. One of them was standing there holding a lantern, just like the one I'd seen, with shattered glass. I slammed my laptop shut, my heart pounding. The following week was really bad. At school, I was on edge and short-tempered with my friends for no reason. Luke started drifting away from me, saying "weird" behind my back. Mom was constantly asking if I was all right, but I had no clue how to respond. Then I saw a mark, a red, raw place behind my left ear, like a burn that would not heal. It hurt not so much at first, but it grew worse every time I ran past the trailhead during cross-country practice. One day, I caught a glimpse of a figure in the woods holding that bright lantern, and the ache hit me so hard that I knelt on the ground. My coach thought I was dehydrated and sent me home with Gatorade. I did not tell her about the whisper I'd heard, soft but distinct. Fix it. I started having nightmares, stuck in the mine, rocks tumbling, miners rushing towards me, their black eyes on me. In one, the lantern man had my wrist in his hand, and I woke up with fingerprints on my skin that looked like fingers. I quit running on the trail and lost the habit with excuses. But the pain got worse, and the whispers trailed after me home and into my head at night. I was losing it, searching for shadows in corners and jumping at noises in the house. Desperate, I returned to the library and dug through the records. I came across a letter from one of the widows of the miners, dated 1935, stating the mine was cursed and the dead were disturbed because nobody was held responsible. She mentioned a ritual. A piece of stone from the mine, left at the entrance with an apology, could calm the restless. It sounded like a made-up old myth, but I had nothing else to try. I told Luke, and I hoped he would laugh, but he just nodded, his face pale. He had seen something too, something out his window, holding a lantern the night after we hiked. We slipped out at dawn in Dad's truck. The trail was dense, the air heavier. The ache in the back of my ear hurt with every step. At the mine, I took up a smooth rock alongside the gate, gripped it hard, and whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't break it. Rest now." I set the rock down, hoping for nothing. The humming stopped. The air was still. Luke grabbed my arm, pointing. Behind the gate, the rock pile had moved, leaving a small opening. A soft green glow shone inside, and one word echoed, "Good." We ran and never stopped until we got to the truck. The pain has not bothered me since then, and the whispering is over. I went to the mine a week later. The gap was closed and the rocks were piled as if nothing occurred. Luke claims he still sees the lantern occasionally in the woods, but I don't want to look. I don't have to. I closed it, did I? But sometimes, when it's quiet, I get this pull, like the mine is still watching, waiting for me to come back.